Check 1 2, check 1 2 3. Can you guys hear me? Checking, check 1 2. Hello, 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 hello. Can you guys hear me? So for anyone who doesn't know, we're about to do a little ghost tour. I haven't really done this before. It's already something that I pride myself in being able to do, but I thought, why not? I'm just back from Charleston, a super historic city, and we went on 1 or 2 ghost tours on the way there. And it was pretty good. It was pretty fun. Many, many enthusiastic folks, and even a few supernatural encounters. Now, whether or not you believe in ghosts today, I hope that you guys will still have fun and just get a chance to sit back, relax, and just enjoy yourselves. I'm still currently streaming out of the US of A, and we're streaming a little bit earlier than usual today. That's just because there's going to be some visitors over, and I don't want to really be that much of a bother to the lovely folk who are hosting me while I'm here. But are you guys ready? But before that, we're gonna sing a little song. You can already hear it in the background, so you can probably guess what it is. Now, am I just talking like this to make myself sound spooky? No. Actually, the truth is, I'm actually very tired, and I'm currently trying G Fuel for the first time, so that's always good. Now, what we're gonna be doing is, as you sound like Bob Ross. Well, welcome to the stream, everyone. We're gonna be drawing a little paint today. Nice, calm little Indianapolis view. We're gonna be but before that, make sure you grab your brush, and we're gonna beat the devil out of it. Just we're not really gonna be beating anything out of this brush. It's just a figure of speech. Yeah, well, there's no mistakes here, just happy little accidents. So chat, the way we're gonna be doing this today, the way we're gonna be, how should I say, going through this stream, is I'm going to be taking you guys down through Charleston. I'm going to be showing you guys pictures at each stop, and I'm going to be telling you guys some little stories. It's going to be a mixture of history and ghost history. You can't really escape it. You know, both things go hand in hand. You know, no one wants to know about the person that died last week. You want to know about the people, the 400 people that were buried in a trench, you know, little graveyard out in Charleston, where our setting today takes place. Now, if any of you guys aren't okay with ghost stuff, or if you're easily scared, now's your time to click off. But I assure you, it's not going to get too scary. I mean, heck, it's probably the middle of the day for most people, unless you're in Europe. Also having a Kumi. I think Kumi's live, so we don't even have to worry about that. But for now, as many of you guys know, I like to sing a song at the start of every stream, because not everybody gets a chance to stay till the very end. And this way, even the people who couldn't stay for the entire stream get a little something. So without further ado, this is Heathens by 21 Pilots. Let's get some ghosties in the chat. All my friends are heathens, take it slow. Wait for them to ask you who you know. Please don't make any sudden move. You don't know the half of the abuse. Yeah, all my friends are heathens, take it slow. Wait for them to ask you who you know. Please don't make any sudden moves. You don't know the half of the abuse. Welcome to the room of people who have rooms of people that you loved one day locked away. Just because we check the guns at the door doesn't mean our brains will change for hand grenades. You'll never know the psychopath sitting next to you. You'll never know the murderer sitting next to you. You'll think, how did I get here sitting next to you? But after all I've said, please don't forget, here we go. Friends are heathens, take it slow. You wait for them to ask you who you know. Oh, please don't make any sudden moves. You decided very well. They say newcomers have a certain smell. You have trust issues, not to mention. They say they can smell your intentions. You'll know all the freak shows sitting next to you. You'll have some weird people sitting next to you. You'll think how I got here sitting next to you. But after all I've said, please don't forget. What's that? All my friends are here, let's take it slow. Wait for them to ask you who you know. Please don't forget these sudden moves. You don't know the half of the abuse. All my friends are here, let's take it slow. Wait for them to ask you who you know. Watch it. All my friends are here, let's take it slow. Wait for them to ask you who you know. Why don't you come, you should stay. Try to warn you just to stay away. And now they're outside ready to bust. It looks like you might be one of us. Yeah. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. That there was Heathens by 21 Pilots. I like singing that song when spooky things be happening. But for now, let's throw in some non-copyright horror music and hope to God that YouTube doesn't bonk me for this.
I'm
YouTube
not allowed to spend this on other
but
YouTubers.
what happened?
I mean, that's totally
Chase,
fine.
Chase,
I
Chase,
just
Chase.
wanted to know, just in case, someone said something cute. And thank you for the super chat.
We have to move it out of the way, Chase. Chase, thank you.
Hope you're enjoying your trip.
I actually did get scared by that. Chase, thank you so much for the akasupa. I really, really appreciate it. May says thanks too. I'm still actually in America right now. We're just back from South Carolina. And so I'm currently streaming out of Indianapolis. So bear with me. I still don't have a great setup, but I did to thank May for being such a good host and to thank her family as well. I purchased the same mic setup that I have at home. So for any of you guys here who don't know Hanahime May, !May in the chat, she's going to now have some upgraded acoustics on her part. But I'm very much enjoying this trip. I am very, very, very much enjoying the trip. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for the akasupa. I really, really appreciate it. I've got big news coming. Should I spoil it? Chat, do you guys like spoilers? Because I don't like keeping secrets. Do you guys want some big news now, or do you want some big news like when the big news is confirmed? That all depends on you guys. And also, not gonna lie, so May's parents are working, so I'm having to be a little bit quiet. So apologies in advance for anyone who doesn't like ASMR, but that's kind of what you guys are gonna get. Or for any of you guys who don't like ASMR and want to stay along, just pretend I'm Bob Ross. Just pretend I'm beating the devil out of it. I'm surprised we didn't get copyright struck for those Bob Ross videos. Like, we were just blatantly ripping off the audio from that. But let's just say that just beat the devil out of me. Did you say beat the devil out of me?
No, you're crazy. You made that up. You're crazy.
But let's just say that I might be coming back to America very soon. And it might be more of a somewhat permanent move, at least for the foreseeable future. And so hopefully we can use this time to meet up with a bunch more VTubers, experience America, try a bunch. Streamhouse, I mean, technically, right? Yeah, technically. Oh, maybe Mimi can move in too. What?
Are you
Enjoy your ghost tour. Yo, thank you so much, Song. But yeah, we shall see. We shall see. But for now, let's throw on this dark ambience horror background music. Look at that. And nope, all of those have copyright strikes on them. Cool. We're not listening to that one. This one's been hitting me for what about this one? What's an hour of deep, relaxing horror music? What makes music deep? There we go, chat. Oh, look at that. That's nice. I was learning about that too. Yeah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, chat. It's totally fine. It's totally fine. That's the only reason why I doxed, right? Is this a silencer? Do Americans just have silencers on their tables? What is this?
Oh, that's for my stylist.
Oh, I know. It looked like a pistol silencer. Yeah, that's what I was wondering. I was like, why do you have a silencer on your desk if you don't even have a gun? But chat, hopefully you guys are ready for some spooky times. We're gonna be delving through Charleston. Like I said, I was up in Charleston for the last week, all of last week. It was very fascinating. You know, I come from Ireland. It's a land where it wouldn't be too uncommon to see buildings from the 1500s or just generally spooky things around the place, but you almost get desensitized to it. However, Charleston was very different because even though the streets weren't that old, as far as Ireland standards are concerned, there was a lot of history, from outbreaks of yellow fever to Civil War bombings to simple accidents. And walking through the streets at night, I was absolutely captivated by just how much bloodshed and destruction those city streets have seen. But before that, let me show you some really pretty images of what the city looks like right now in the current day. Because they look nice. The town looks wonderful. The houses look colorful. And you almost couldn't tell that some of these streets hold a dark past. Here, for example, is a picture of a house from Rainbow Row. I say as it would seem that iPhone images just don't want to show up, but that's fine. Do you know why? Because we're pro streamers, and do you know what pro streamers can do? We can improvise on the fly. Because I have other images, but, you know, me being me, I decided to show images that weren't ready, that weren't on the... So, fun fact, Microsoft doesn't let you share photos or show photos. So what I'm going to have to do instead is open them in Chrome and then share my Chrome. Oh, that's spooky. Oh, I don't like that. Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm scared. It's fine. It's fine. I'm okay. I'm not scared. I'm brave. I'm a big boy. Oh. No wonder. No. These images like HEIC files. What's a HEIC file? Heck. There you go, chat. Now, as you guys can see, in the daytime, It's a beautiful city, filled with color. This was taken in particular from the back of a horse-drawn carriage. As you can see, Charleston is filled to the brim with large palm trees, beautiful scenery, beautiful brightly colored houses. But if you look closely, you'll see signs of wear and tear seeping out from behind the pastel facade. Also, hopefully, you guys are going to be able to tell very easily that I'm somewhat of a poet. I'm going to say right now that I don't have a script, so any cheesy lines are coming straight out of my brain. But as you can see, there isn't anything too spooky here. There's nothing that's really gonna make you... Oh, that's... Oh my gosh, I need to change. This is scaring me. Like these trees. I don't know why it's not working, chat. Maybe the ghosts are... Maybe the ghosts are after us, chat. Wrong account. Wrong account missed Tokyo Cinderella. This isn't a real haunted house? Oh, don't worry. Don't worry, you're gonna get to see many a haunted house. Is there anything particularly incriminating? Not that I can see. Cool. In that case, we're gonna do what's called a, this is a big no-no in the VTuber industry. This is a risky business we're doing, right? This is called a display capture. The spookiest of all. Ooh, it's spooky. It's me. Now, if you guys see my homework folder, don't worry, because it's not mine. It's May's. This is May's PC. So if we have any tech issues, chat, we know who to blame. But look, let's take you guys down some happy streets. Some streets that wouldn't be too scary. We don't want to spook everyone out too early in the day, right? Let's show you guys this one. So as you can see, the roadside is filled to the brim with these beautiful trees and beautiful flowers. But I want you guys to pay close attention here. Really squint your eyes. Try to see the little cracks in the pavement. Try to see the little trees and the strange colors and the strange hues that they give off. Because the moment that the sun goes down, the entire vibe changes. At night, you can see the cracks in the stone. You can see these little corners, these little corridors that aren't painted over. Many of these buildings are barely hanging on. Charleston, you see, had this huge earthquake in the 1800s. And that earthquake, so back then they didn't really have the Richter scale as we have it now. But that earthquake hit with, I believe it would be a 7 on the Richter scale, which is big. That's not something you want to be in. And as a result, a lot of these buildings crumbled and fell to the ground. A lot of them were completely demolished, but some of them were salvaged and basically have these huge corkscrew bolts driven straight through the buildings, straight through the floors. Now, on one hand, that's keeping them up, but should another earthquake like that hit, many of those buildings will be the first to crumble. Because for anyone of you guys who have never really played with little construction kits, the more rigid a body is, the more susceptible it is to breaking. So when it comes to earthquakes, you want the buildings to be as movable and mobile as you can. That allow you to, I guess, I want the word, have more sway and be able to absorb more of the impact. Now, why do I bring up this? Why do I bring up this wonderful, wonderful, wonderful image? Well, that is because of this right here. So what you guys see right now, can't really see it because a lot of it's covered, but this is the graveyard that we went to visit. A Unitarian, the Unitarian graveyard, very famous in Charleston, very popular, and a very popular spot for little touristy ghost trips like the one we're on right now. However, you'll notice that you can't really see it from here. I've got a little bonus picture for all of you guys who are good little, here, look, you guys can see there, this is the channel I'm using for horror music. But for all of you good little tourists, I've got a little prize for you guys. Because you see, just beyond this little building over here, there's just a straight row of grass. No gravestones, nothing. Very similar to what you see here. Just an empty patch of grass, but much bigger. Now, what a lot of people sort of asked was, why is there no graves there? Why is no one being buried there? Why are the gravestones so close together? Well, let me answer one of those questions. Well, for one, the gravestones are close together because the truth is, they simply ran out of room. They needed to move some gravestones. They put on little pavements, and they moved some of those gravestones. So if you're ever walking through that graveyard at night, just know then there are more than one brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers right underneath your feet. But that's not the worst part. Because I bet some of you guys are asking yourself, hey, he mentioned that during that earthquake in the 1800s, something was uncovered. Something that had laid dormant for hundreds of years. Something that dates back to the ages when the yellow fever was sweeping through Charleston. One of the many outbreaks. But this one in particular was so bad that they had to employ the use of what were simply known as death carts. Just like rubbish men would bring garbage trucks around and they'd collect your rubbish. It wasn't too uncommon for bodies of those who died of yellow fever to be left at the side of the road. And every morning, one poor individual would go around with their little cart collecting all the little bodies. They would bring those bodies to a cemetery like this, dig a huge trench and pour all the bodies in. Now, it goes without saying that you're probably not going to have name tags or dog tags or any way to identify these people. And so their bodies were laid to rest on a large patch of grass, under a large patch of grass. No gravestones, nothing. Just grass with 400 odd skeletons scattered underneath, packed closely together. And for a very long time, there was no supernatural activity around that area, around this area. There was a few that we'll get to, but nothing malicious. That was until the earthquake, when the roads were described as almost flowing like waves. Cracks emerged from the ground, and with those cracks, 400 corpses from 100 years ago burst out of an unmarked trench grave, scattering about the cemetery. Because as you guys can imagine, a lot of gas would have built up, a lot of pockets would have built up. So when that earthquake shook the land, they almost erupted from that trench. And ever since then, people have seen apparitions of a woman. Obviously, they cleaned this place up. Who would sort of stand over the trench grave, minding her own business. And if you would get too close to her, she would turn, and very similar to Sadako from The Grudge, she would crawl towards you rapidly to chase you away from the graves. And now there's many theories as to who exactly this spirit is. But the common theory is that belongs to a young woman. I believe her name was Elizabeth. And she was struck with yellow fever, as probably all 400 of the people in that grave were too. However, I mentioned sons, daughters earlier, and that's because her 2 children, 2 young boys, were also struck with the fever. And while she was on her deathbed, with barely enough strength to lift up her hands or open her eyes, she received word that her 2 boys had been carted off this morning by the death cart. And if any of you guys can imagine being too weak to even give your children a proper send-off, it does a thing to a parent. And needless to say, she died several days later and followed behind them. But they say that that spirit is still that mother who is still grieving that she could never say goodbye to her children. Still grieving that they were taken before her and that they could never live that life that they were promised. Now, I personally, unfortunately, didn't see this woman, this apparition, but during the tour, and I promised you guys a little prize. While this man was talking about Elizabeth, we got a little visitor. A cute little guy. This little meow meow. This little kibby cat. This little kibby cat came to say hi. And then he scared the crap out of our tour guide. Because this kibby cat literally crawled out, and while he was telling the story of Elizabeth, this cat walked up behind him out of seemingly nowhere and then just sat behind him. Just casually. And then he came over to us. So myself standing alongside May and her family. And it just sat there. And it listened to the story. And it was kind of crazy because it sat there for the entire tour. And as soon as we got up to leave, it sort of scampered off. But what's funny is I like supernatural. I like chancing my arm, sticking my head in dark corridors and peeking into the darkness. I like this stuff. I live off this stuff. And while we were playing with the cat, I wanted to see, right? I was like, call the cat the name of the mother, right? I said Elizabeth to the cat, expecting either the cat ignores me because that's not its name, or the cat looks at me and I'm like, whoa, this is the spirit of Elizabeth. And how wrong was I? Because when I called that name, the cat didn't look at me. It looked right behind me. And there was no one standing there. And it just stared, and I was like, nope. That's not what I wanted. That's not what I was expecting. That is not the reaction I was looking for. I was just like stood behind May firmly. And I was like, nope. don't like this. But it wasn't a main supernatural experience. It was just a lot of things. That could have been chalked out to a lot of things. Personally, I don't like to be too seeing is believing, and I didn't see a single person standing behind me, so that means there was nothing behind me, and the cat was just looking at the moon, which was in front of me. But it's, hey, look, what do cats know, right? And hey, Credo, how you doing? It has been a long time. I've been on holidays, you see. But, you know, when we left the cemetery, I couldn't see the cat. The cat probably just went home. But there was a few more sights that we encountered. One of which was this little building off the side of the cemetery. Now this right here was a little meeting hall. But I want you guys to look carefully at these pictures. This picture. See if you can see a few things that are strange from here. I was looking into this meeting hall, and I just got a very... I could check on a comment section which had too many delusional people there. Don't worry. If in future, just be expecting many delusional people in comments. But this one was really creepy to me. This was a much newer house. It's a much newer house, and this is at the very start of the tour. And the tour guide didn't literally paid no... There was no information given about this. I asked him, and he said it's just a simple meeting hall. They had some training in there, and there wasn't much. Now, the reason I wanted to show you guys this picture was, if you look closely, you'll see these little circles. Now, those circles mean two things. One, this building was around during the earthquake. And two, obviously it's got those staples going through it. But three, it also means that this building was around when the bodies were spewed around the place. And this house gave me a really uneasy feeling. Not just because of the eerie red exit signs that were all over. Like, I mean, why? I mean, you can, there's many different colors of exit signs. Like green, white exit signs. Why choose the red exit signs next to the graveyard? Anyway, so that on its own was giving me the heebie-jeebies. And then I thought I saw someone inside that bottom left window. That's why I took this picture. And if you look closely at this picture, you'll see a lot of these little artifacts around the place. Little dots of light, little strange kind of artifacts around. And that could all very easily be chalked down to just the camera and just my bad photography, to be honest. But what really spooked me was this. I don't know what this was. That was something that really spooked me. Because, you know, when I looked at it, I was like, oh yeah, that's just my finger. And then I realized... So I was using May's phone to capture this. And May's phone has a little key ring on the end. So I was just kind of using that to take pictures. I was to like anchor the phone in place while I took pictures. Yeah, my finger on May's phone is nowhere near the camera. And this image doesn't appear anywhere else, frankly. And the more I looked at it, the more it kind of freaked me out. Because it's like, oh, okay, and there was no one standing there. So, I mean, realistically, it could be anything, right? Just everything about this picture, it just seems so normal and natural, but just everything seems slightly off. Anyway, I thought I'd show you guys that picture, just because it gave me the heebie-jeebies. But while I was getting freaked out by this thing, we were being shown the grave of Dr. Savage. not to be confused with famous WWE wrestler Randy Savage. But this is a rather sad story. So buckle up. It's time for a little history ride. So Dr. Savage here was, well, as you can imagine, a doctor. And he was a doctor right at the heat of one of the first yellow fever incidents in Charleston. It was also around the time where they believed that yellow fever was transmitted through the air, an airborne disease. I'm sure all of us here are very familiar with a certain airborne disease that we've been recently afflicted with. So back then, they believed that yellow fever was the same. Obviously, now we know that yellow fever is transmitted through mosquito bites, but they didn't know that back then. And Dr. Savage died a rather grief-filled death as he lost his 2 children to yellow fever. And because he was a doctor out there treating patients, and because back then it was believed that yellow fever was transferred via air, Dr. Savage lived many years of his life in absolute misery and grief, believing that he was the reason his children died. And people still believe, and occasionally, now fortunately for me, I didn't encounter anything here. But many people report seeing a white apparition. Now come to think of it, exactly where this flashlight is shining, I assume that's a flashlight. And they assume it's him sitting there crying. They also report seeing other apparitions sort of running around this grave, and they believe that those apparitions are the children. However, their father is too busy with his head in his hands and in pure grief to notice that it wasn't his fault. And how could he have known? It was many, many years after his death that they finally figured out the cause. But yeah, it just goes to show that, you know, you don't have to die a tragic death. You don't have to do something horrible to warrant being chained to the earth as a ghost. Sometimes it's just a misunderstanding. And sometimes it's just about being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Now, we do have time for one happy little ghost story. This is a story. Now, Charleston, unfortunately, was on the wrong side of the Civil War in America. It was had a booming slave industry. Oh my gosh! What? Can you not? I'm going back. I'm going back. Can you? That scared me. But it had a booming slave trade industry. However, there was one slave in particular who absolutely loved the church. A specific building, the church building, and he used to love going there. And he used to always walk around the grounds. As you can see, once again, what's a good ghost story for? By the way, these are pictures that we took ourselves. What's a good ghost photo without random lens flares and artifacts in every shot? But he loved the church so much that one day, when there was a great fire in Charleston, one of many. Honestly, Charleston is in peak hurricane area, storms, floods, you name it. it's frequent in Charleston, but the thing that has caused the most property damage in Charleston were fires. And in particular, there was one fire. One fire that got so close to the church that it threatened to set the entire place ablaze. If not for the efforts of one man, a slave who had no reason to be there, charging, climbing up and down the church building, throwing water on any potential embers that would land on the roof, dousing the place. Just one man doing his best to protect his beloved building. And because of his efforts, the church still stands to this day. Well, it still stood. I'm not sure if there was any renovation, but either way, he did save it from that fire. And for his bravery, he was actually granted his freedom. And he was made the caretaker of the church, which was a really wonderful story. And he continued to take care of it all the way up until his death. And some people say that they still see him wandering the grounds to this day, taking care of the church that he loves so much. And it just goes to show those simple acts of heroism, even in those much darker times of American history, they would still go rewarded. And there were still bits of humanity left despite a bloody, bloody war. However, as with every happy story, there must always be some tragedy attached. Because one girl, in the early 1800s, I believe her name was like Mary Sue or something, don't quote me on that. It was like Annalise, I think. She was very vindicated in her quest to prove that ghosts don't exist. And so she started on the mission one night. Well, this is the story about how she died in that very graveyard. Her goal was to plunge a walking stick near a tree that the man who was said to haunt the graveyard loved very much. And if that walking stick moved by the end of the night, or if she would check on it the next morning, then there would be spirits. But she was absolutely sure that there was nothing there. She was sure that everyone was just making it up and everyone was just an idiot, and she was one of those girls. That's not to say that only girls can be like that. Trust me, I've met guys that are just as bad, if not worse. But she wouldn't take no for an answer. Are you in Charleston? No, I just came back. But how are you doing, Nara? Now, so she marches out into the graveyard. And this is way before the invention of LEDs and street lights, halogen lamps. This was back in gas lamp territory. And what that meant was she didn't see this lovely well-lit sight that you guys see on your screen. What she saw was more akin to this. Just pitch black darkness. And so she snuck out of home in the middle of the night. And she began to walk through this graveyard. And while she walked through the graveyard, she, as you would probably assume, began to get very, very scared. She'd hear the sound of trees rustling, She probably brushed against one too many gravestones, and she really just wanted to get out of there as fast as she could. But she never did. Because the next morning, when a search party went out looking for her, they found the body. They found the body of poor Annalise, slumped against the tree, dried blood caking its bark. And obviously she was no longer of this world. Unalived, as many a YouTuber would say. But how? How did she die? I thought this ghost was good. The ghost of a caretaker who was granted his freedom and allowed to take care of the building he loved so much. I couldn't imagine any ghost like that would bring harm to a young girl who just wanted to justify her actions. Basically a modern day, or at the time, a modern day Karen. But no, it wasn't the ghost. It was a freak accident. Because poor Annalise, in her fear, had gotten the walking stick, plunged it into the base of that tree, and unbeknownst to her, plunged it straight through her dress. And when she went to move and get out of that graveyard as fast as she could, she felt a tug on her dress. And the poor girl, who was already scared out of her wits, whether she died from tripping and falling or what most people believe, she just got so scared that her heart gave up and she scared herself to death. We'll never know, but all we do know is that because of that poor girl's just a little mistake in a very scary night, she never walked out of that graveyard, which is sad. And you know, some people say that they still see a girl in white walking to and fro from that graveyard, probably still trying to disprove that ghosts exist. But I thought I'd share that story because when looking through the gates in that graveyard, I saw what looked like a figure walking through the trees. And when I say walking through the trees, I mean it was very dark. It was very dark because this is obviously looking up towards the church, but I was looking back towards a gate. Let me see if I have a picture of it. I was walking through a gate, trying to like I spy with my little eye some ghost. This is actually the image of what I saw, what I was trying to look through. And as you can see, there's some lights here and there. But I saw a figure passing in front of those lights all the way across. And me being the paranormal enthusiast that I am, stuck my face through those grates and stared for as long as I can because I wanted to prove that there was a person walking through there. I wanted to prove that it was just a ghost tour. I wanted to prove that I wasn't just seeing things, but nope. I stood there for 10 full minutes staring through those gates, trying to look for any semblance, any movement at all. But there was nothing. Whether what I saw was the nice caretaker or the poor, unfortunate Annalise, I don't think I'll ever know. But what I do know is that there was something walking around that graveyard. Something meticulously weaving its way through those tombstones, obscuring the light, and it never really showed itself again. Now, if we're lucky, it was just some hooligans, maybe it was some teenagers banging in the bushes, but realistically, a graveyard is probably not the most romantic spot. But hey, who am I to judge? that was probably a very, that I was very spooked by, because I was so spooked that I just kept my head staring through that fence because I didn't want to turn around. No worries at all, Creedle. Thank you so much for popping in. I appreciate it. But now, why don't we go somewhere a little less dark and dingy? And it's actually the image that you guys have been seeing in the background this entire time. The creme de la creme of the tour, in my opinion. Somewhere filled with history, but also tragedy. And what's crazy here is what I saw still kind of scares me to this day. I say to this day, but it was only like a few days ago. What you see here is a gate that leads into this beautiful garden. But if you look closely, lining the paths in that garden are what look like tombstones. Overgrown, abandoned, in disrepair. And those are the tombstones. Well, at least one of them is a tombstone of a beautiful young girl who died a very tragic death. And there is a poem written about her that I will read at the end. Let me very quickly. Now, for any of you guys who are familiar with the author known as Edgar Allan Poe, you might know of a humble little poem called Annabel Lee. Because a long time ago, a young soldier who was trying to escape death found himself stationed in Charlston, where he found himself working as a messenger, going to and fro from the barracks into the town, anywhere they sent him, really. But around that time, he met a girl named Annabel Lee, and they fell madly in love. Now, I believe Annabel Lee was 14 at the time. And back then, you needed to be 18 to join the army. And besides the age gap, Annabel Lee's father, who was quite the prominent figure in Charleston at the time, was very opposed to the relationship of his little Annabelle and this vagabond soldier. And so he forbade them to hang out and bond and get any closer. However, they found sanctuary in this tiny little stretch of green, an old graveyard, through these gates where they could meet in secret and away from prying eyes. And there they would meet, and their love prospered and blossomed, and they grew even closer. That was, of course, until her father discovered their little hideaway and thus forbade her to even leave her house. And that seemed to be the end of that relationship. However, like a true teenage girl, she wanted to rebel. And they say that they found a wedding dress under her bed. Signs that she was planning to run away with this soldier and get married to elope, if you will. Hey, Lick, welcome to the stream. How you doing? However, her father found this and thus forbade her to leave the house. Forbade her to even leave her room without an escort. And absolutely forbade her to be anywhere near the soldier. And as a result, Annabelle Lee went on a hunger strike, where she went several days, I believe they said 8 days, without eating. Because obviously, you know, even back then, people married young, but not at the age of 14. Especially not to some guy who was already basically an adult. Now remember that age gap, because it'll be important later on. Remember that. Because unfortunately, in her weakened state, after going many days without eating any food, she contracted a fatal illness, which at the time was very treatable, but in her weakened state, she succumbed to it. Scarlet fever, for anyone who's curious. And as a result, she passed away. And her father blamed the soldier, cursed his name, and promised that even in death, he wouldn't let him have his daughter. And so what he did is he purchased 8 plots in this graveyard, scattered about. Beyond even here, there's even more tombstones, but 8 of them were all purchased. 8 of them were unmarked. 8 of them were super far away from each other. And Annabelle Lee was buried at one of them. And only the father knew where. And this absolutely crushed the soldier. It crushed him because he couldn't even mourn at her grave. He couldn't even talk to her. There was no goodbye. Because obviously she'd been locked away for so long, he hadn't seen her in so long. And they say that she was so lonely that her ghost still haunts the place. A white figure is said to roam this graveyard at night, looking for the soldier that she fell in love with. And here's the saddest part about this entire thing. The soldier blamed himself. The soldier blamed himself, and rightly so. Because he was so guilty that he went to his general or his commanding officer and told him the truth. 1, that his true name was Edgar Allan Poe, the famous poet that we now know. And 2, that he wasn't actually 18. Because of the debt that he was under, he needed to escape, and escape fast. He was only 16 years old, which would have been perfectly normal as far as age gaps went. Now, maybe her father would have still been against her marrying a soldier, but the age would have made all the difference. And thus, Edgar wrote a poem. One of the last poems that he'd ever written, called Annabelle Lee. And I'll read it to you guys now. And now that you guys know the story, I hope you can appreciate it as much as I do. This is Annabelle Lee by Edgar Allan Poe, the soldier who was denied the ability to mourn for his long lost love. It was many and many a year ago, in a kingdom by the sea, that a maiden there lived who you may know by the name of Annabelle Lee. And this maiden, she lived with no other thought than to love and be loved by me. Was I a child? I was a child. And she was a child in this kingdom by the sea. But we loved with a love that was more than love, I and my Annabelle Lee. With a love that the winged seraphs of heaven coveted her and me. And this was the reason that long ago in this kingdom by the sea, a wind blew out of a cloud, chilling my beautiful Annabelle Lee, so that her high-born kinsman came and bore her away from me, to shut her up in her sepulcher. How do you pronounce it?
Huh?
How do you pronounce sepulcher? To shut her up in her sepulcher in this kingdom by the sea. The angels, not half so happy in heaven, went envying her and me. Yes, that was the reason, as all men know, in this kingdom by the sea, that the wind came out of the cold by night, chilling and killing my Annabelle Lee. But our love, it was stronger, by far than the love of those who were older than we, of many far wiser than we, and neither the angels in heaven above nor the demons down under the sea can ever dissever my soul from the soul of the beautiful Annabelle Lee. For the moon never beams without bringing me dreams of the beautiful Annabelle Lee. And the stars never rise, but I feel the bright eyes of the beautiful Annabelle Lee. And so, all the night tide, I lie down by the side of my darling, my life and my bride, in her sepulchre there by the sea, in her tomb by the sounding sea. And that was a poem that Edgar Allan Poe wrote about his beloved who was buried in that graveyard somewhere, unbeknownst to him and unbeknownst to all of us. And they say that her ghost still haunts those areas, still haunts that graveyard to this day. And I personally believe this to be true because I should probably mention that this was, whenever I see anything supernatural stuff, I very, very rarely hear anything. Very rarely. I see things because, eyes can do that. But I very rarely hear things. And now it could very easily have just been some person who'd snuck in, gotten really drunk, climbed over the fence. But where's the fun in that? Where's the fun in believing that, right? Because upon approaching this, before I heard this story, I heard what sounded like crying inside the graveyard. And I thought that it was, honestly, because this is before I heard the story. This is before the guy started talking. And I kind of went up really quick and kind of peered in. I didn't see anyone. So I just assumed that some drunk person had just crawled in. Because look, I'm Irish. I know how capable a drunk, determined person can be. I've woken up in random people's wardrobes many a time. But this is different because while he was telling the story, I still kind of heard it. Whispers from behind in the gate. And I'd look in and there'd just be no one there. And I thought that the drunk person would just awkwardly crawl out. And who knows, maybe they just fell asleep. But we sat there for about 30 minutes listening to this story. And not a single sound, nor person, nor any sign of life emerged from those bushes. And hey, maybe they found another exit. And there could have been many ways to explain this, but once again, where's the fun in that? Especially on a ghost tour. And now, as we wrap up the tour, if you guys ever find yourself in Charleston, you'll find these paper roses. These paper roses, they're called palmetto roses. Made out of like the leaves, the palm leaves. You'll see them scattered about. You'll see people selling them, usually trying to rip you off. I wouldn't personally consider buying them. But that comes from a certain people. Can't name them off the top of my head. But they believed, they had their own religion, and they believed in a form of afterlife. Like most religions, if you're good, you go up to heaven. But they also believe that part of you stayed down on earth. Just like in early Christianity, they believed that the soul and the spirit were different. The soul being your mind and your consciousness, and the spirit being a different part of you, more spiritual aspect of you that isn't really tied to your consciousness. And so they believed that the soul would go to heaven and their own version of the afterlife. And part of their spirit would stay on earth as a guide, to guide those to live a good life and join them. However, if you, like all religions, or most religions that have a heaven, there is also a hell. And those whose souls went to hell, their spirits would stay on earth and become a creature. One which would hide up in the trees, looking for unsuspecting people. It would look like a normal person, though its hair more disheveled, its eyes beady. But the most defining feature would be the fact that they have no skin. If any of you guys have seen Attack on Titan, you guys know exactly what that looks like. If any of you guys have looked at those anatomy books, you know exactly what a human with no skin looks like. So God help the person who figured that out first. But the thing about these things is if they were to see someone on their way home, and if you don't catch them, they'll stalk you from behind, and they'll follow you to your house. They'll sneak in through an entryway as small as a little keyhole, similar to a mouse. And also, what's up, Jono? How you doing? Can we get an exclamation mark Jono in chat? And if they get in without being caught, they'll crawl up to you while you sleep. And just for the night, just for a few hours while you sleep, this little devil borrows your skin. I guess that's the least gruesome way of saying it. And they go on to live their best lives wearing your skin, looking just like you, sounding just like you. And your friends will just think that you're out having a real good time, making a mess, trashing a party. But as far as you're concerned, you were just lying in your bed, having a great sleep, while someone out in the town parades as you. Which sounds great. Hey, give them a party, but I know about you guys, but I'd rather not wake up to find my face plastered all around the town. Every picture of me looking as if my skin doesn't quite fit. So if you're ever in Charleston, make sure you check the trees, especially if you're around at night. You never know who or what might be looking back. But chat, that brings us to the end of the ghost tour. Hopefully you guys don't mind the stream being short. I've actually been really enjoying these shorter streams. I'm able to do more creative things like this, but hopefully you guys stay a little bit. We're going to chat, talk about the future, talk about a few things, but thank you so much to everybody who stuck around and listened to this little story. Nice. Sad I missed it. Well, no worries at all. I'll tell you all about it when I'm in Germany. Fun fact, chat, this time next week, or not next week, in a couple of weeks' time, I will be in Germany, and Jono and I have a lot planned. We're going to be doing a bunch of stuff. We're going to be having a bunch of fun. So stay tuned for that. But for now, my name is Fray, and I'm your Mahou Sensei, and thank you so much for coming to this ghost tour. Let's head back to the magic study, shall we? Here we go. And we're back. How did you guys enjoy that? How did you guys enjoy that little ghost tour? Hopefully you guys got a few spooks, or well, my real goal is to just inspire you guys to go visit Charlston. Like I said, it is a beautiful history. It is a beautiful historical city. I will warn you, tourist prices are insane. Like, oh my gosh. We paid like $40 for like 2 crepes. But make sure, if you're around there, stop by the Unitarian graveyard. Stop by that little gate where Annabelle Lee was. There's also a very cool little building called Putin's Porch with a story about a ghost dog. I didn't want to tell you guys all of the ghost stories because when I come back from America, I want to still have 1 or 2 ghost stories and 1 or 2 little things to share with you guys. And so if you want some more ghost stories, or at least 1 more, make sure to pop into my my trip recap stream, which will probably be sometime when I'm back in Ireland. But tourist tax is incredibly expensive, yeah. Now, a couple of announcements. Like I said, I'm still in America, so we're still kind of. I'm currently packing because I'm going to be going home in a couple of days, and it's really sad. But I'm hoping to be back sooner rather than later, so keep your eyes peeled for that. As well as that, I've got a really cool stream plan when coming back. We're going to be doing some pickup line rating. That's going to be probably when I come back from America, as well as a load of like a recap stream, a couple of recap streams. It's kind of sad. How long is the flight back? Like around 16 hours, but with the extra travel time and the stopover time, well, if the extra travel time in Ireland and stuff, you're looking at about 20 hours of total travel time. But the flights itself are only around 12 hours. It's not that bad. So I'm very okay with that. Very, very okay with that. Like I said as well, I'm gonna be in Germany soon, so keep an eye out for some super awesome streams coming your way. And yeah, I really do like doing these kind of streams, you know, these kind of more unique streams. Don't get me wrong, games are fun, and I love playing games with you guys and showing games off with you guys, but I think these kind of streams are really my passion. The only problem is they're a lot harder to stream, and you need a lot more content. You actually need to leave the house to be able to do streams like this. But I'm going to try and turn as many of my travels into these kind of more creative streams. Gonna watch the VOD tomorrow. I hope you enjoy it. And hey, if you don't get a chance, I'll be in Germany soon. I'll tell you about it in person. Very touching grass. I'm all for it. I'll try it. You know, like, hey, I've got more reason to than ever, right? Especially with you guys supporting me as much as you. Like, I've honestly been blown away. I've had no real schedule. I've had no real alerts to the streams. They've been very sporadic and here and there, but you guys have always come down. You guys have shown me some amazing support, and it's only inspired me to keep doing better and keep on working harder for you guys, making sure that, you know, I'm never slouching, I'm never slacking. And I've met some amazing people. Like, you guys know, I met Will. Obviously I've been hanging out with May a bunch, and just a lot of amazing two amazing creators who inspire me quite a lot. And so I'm gonna keep on improving for you guys. So just you wait. Big things are coming, chat. Big things are coming. I believe that's about it for announcements. Like I said, I hope you guys really enjoyed the horror theme. I've always been a horror nut. Ever since I was a kid, my mom and I used to always watch horror movies, to the point where by the time I was a teenager, horror movies weren't scary anymore, which is really sad. I'm also drinking G Fuel. Oh, and also, special for anyone who stayed this long. I bought Twizzlers. I'm gonna try my first Twizzler on stream, chat. Never had them. For anyone who doesn't know what Twizzlers are, they're these like red licorice sticks. That I've kind of just seen. Twizzlers are you don't like Twizzlers, Chase? I've never had a Twizzler before. I'm curious. Let's see. Here we go. Oh, they smell really fruity. They kind of smell like cut grass. Man, look, smell this. It smells like cut grass. They put it right up your nose. Smell it? They just eat it. She ate it. Okay, I guess I'm getting another Twizzler. They're just okay. All right, let's try it. Let's try it out. That's unexpected. Unlike literally everything else in this country, these aren't sweet. But they're kind of... I know exactly when I'm eating these, chat. I'd have them on my table while I'm doing work or while I'm driving. Because you can just chill and just munch on these. Because it's a very neutral flavor. Honestly, there's basically none. But they're just kind of a little treat, honestly. A very neutral flavor. I don't think we have anything like this in Ireland. What we do have is red licorice with strawberry filling. I will say though, eating this, it kind of feels like my teeth are getting massaged. I feel like, do you know those dog treats that reduce tartar buildup? Definitely feels like eating one of those. There is enough of there is enough of a cherry flavor that doesn't feel like you're just eating cardboard. But it's very, very light. The ones with filling inside, or the more exotic colored ones, are more interesting. Oh, I'll have to try those next time I'm in America. I might as well say now. The plan is for me to come back to America in like October. So, if all goes well, look forward to more Fray trying random American sweets. Ooh, big announcements, I know, right? The reason I'm so casual is because, like, God knows what's going to happen. That is the plan, but when do plans ever go to plan? Kind of defeats the purpose of a plan, don't you think? But let's just say I've really fallen in love with this country and its people. And it's kind of... it's really weird. This is just so weird for me to say. It's probably a weird thing to hear. But I feel like I've never felt more at home in a country. I feel like everything just makes sense here. I mean, we're not counting the finance stuff and thing, but in terms of the culture, especially where we are here towards the like Midwest. Midwest, right? It's just people hold doors open for each other. People say thank you. People say excuse me. Talking to people is fun. People like telling stories. People like talking. And it's nice. I have more culture shock in Ireland than I do here in the Midwest, which is crazy to me. I think May likes to make a joke that I was just a closet American. But I definitely want to come back as soon as possible, to be honest. The reason I'm waiting till October is 1, cheaper tickets, and 2, my parents' birthday. I'd rather be in the country for that, and then fly out after, because they share the same birthday. So it's yeah, but definitely no major culture shock. Everything just feels right, you know. In Ireland, I'd be considered very loud, and I'd be, well, what do you call it? I'd be considered quite loud. I'd be considered overly polite. I'd be considered a lot of things, whereas over here, I kind of just feel normal, you know? Then it just feels normal. And so I definitely want to explore this country more, spend more months here, and really learn more about the culture and stuff that you just don't see on TV. Do you know what I mean? That American accent's very apparent. Wait, am I getting the accent? Oh, and also definitely would like to visit more VTubers. But it all depends on how far we can travel before we end up in a 5-car pileup with May. But she's been doing really well, chat. May's actually not the worst driver when she remembers to use her indicator lights. But yeah, so wait, has my accent changed? I don't think has the accent rubbed off on me. Whoops. My bad. Yeah, that's important. Yeah, indicators are important. Hopefully in future, right, when I'm back as well, I can do more of those driving vlogs. And also G Fuel is amazing. G Fuel's really good. G Fuel is really, really good. I like G Fuel. G Fuel make me happy. But yeah, I think that about wraps it up. Thank you so much to everybody for chilling with me today. And thank you for everybody for all your support and your encouragement. And Chase, remember when you made a joke being like, when you were like, oh yeah, Fray's gonna like leave the cards in Ireland. So I didn't leave the cards in Ireland. I specifically brought them. But I don't know where they are, so I'm gonna need to go back to Ireland and write the cards and send them. They're somewhere here. But the plan was to write them in the plane, which I did, and then send them, but I can't find the cards. God damn it. I've never tried G Fuel. Okay, so the G Fuel I'm drinking now is the canned G Fuel. Wait, Jono gotta go. Oh, bye, Jono. But the G Fuel is the strawberry slushy flavor, and it's in a can. So effectively, we lost the cards. I have spares. I always buy spares. So I'm gonna have the ones at home. And if I find the ones here, because God knows I don't remember everything that I wrote, I'm just gonna, you might get 2 cards. Who knows? If we find the cards here, then we'll send the ones here as well, because they're written. So much for saving on shipping. I know, right? God damn it. I'm gonna look for them again. I also lost my passport, but I found it just before the stream, so surely the cards can't be that far away, right? But chat, let's look for someone to raid, shall we? And I'm glad you guys had fun. I'm glad it was a fun stream. And also, I'm just enjoying streaming again. I think this trip is really, like, I was burned out, chat. I was so burned out. I was like very dead. You know, it was many months since I had proper time off where I just wasn't thinking about streaming, and you know, here we are now, refreshed, ready to take on the world, ready to raid someone. Let's see who's live. Yeah, let's go raid Pam Pam. We haven't raided her in ages. I don't know what her stream is, but it says we don't talk about the truck incident. And I think it's something to do with horror. I think it's a horror visual novel, so I thought that would be a very appropriate thing to raid into. It's nice to take a vacation every so often, get to see and try new things. Yeah, and then I get to bring it back to you guys and tell you guys all about it. So anyway, without any further ado, my name is Fray. I'm your Mahou Sensei. Hope that every single one of you has had an absolutely magical day. And it's time to sing our ending song. This is Bakumintai. Let's get some Bakumintai emotes in the chat. 3, 2, 1.
Bakumintai 子供なのね夢を追ってき進んで嘘が下手でくせに笑えない笑顔を見せた I love you もろくに言わない口下手で真に不器用なのにどうしてさよならは嫌だのダメだねダメよダメなのよあんたが好きで好きすぎてどれだけ強い朝けでも歪まない思い出がバカみたい
Special thanks to our valedictorians, Chase, Akumi, Jen, and Raziel. Your support keeps the channel going. And Chase, thank you so much for the Akasupa. I really, I cannot stress how much I appreciate it. And thank you so much for the support. You inspire me to keep doing what I'm doing. But I'll see you guys next time. I'll do Fray so stay straight, and Pam's chat. Goodbye now.